Oh, guys, I've been playing a lot of Darkest Dungeon lately, and feeling a little jumpy. What the hell is that? It's just the game. Just the game. Get it out of your head. Get it out. What the f is that? Darkest Dungeon has a stress mechanic that's so powerful. I feel like it affects me in real life, but I think I'm doing okay now. Hey, what's up? Jesus Christ! Darkest Dungeon by Red Hook Games is the most stressful and rewarding turn-based RPG you'll play this year. In the opening cutscene, we hear the narrator, who's also supposed to be our ancestor, speak of how he allowed his vast estate to fall into ruin when he became corrupted by sin and the occult. Apparently, this guy was so rich that he became bored with normal pleasures like wine, women, and song, and the only thing that could tickle his fancy was trying to get a lunch date with Cthulhu, or something like that. You, his descendant, years later find his letters detailing his demise, and decide to reclaim your sprawling estate and restore it to former glory. The only problem is that it's infested with unimaginable horrors that will cut your head off as fast as they'll look at you. You are tasked with hiring and training adventurers and sending them into the dungeon of the estate in an attempt to reclaim lost glory and riches. Meet our adventurers. We have the Crusader. This fellow is all holier than thou. He's a frontline tank that can take a lot of damage and deal out a considerable amount as well. This lovely lass is the Grave Robber. She tosses knives from the back line and hits you in the face with a pickaxe. This is an occultist. He's kind of like a witch doctor. He has an unreliable heal that can also have added side effects of making you bleed, doing damage over time, and he can also call up demons and curses to damage and afflict enemies with debuffs. This is an arbalist. She shoots arrows. They hurt a lot, especially if a target is marked. This is a Houndmaster. He is a puppy. Oh, look at this disease-ridden flea bag. Who's a good flea bag? You are. This is a Plague Doctor. He poisons and stabs people. A real upstanding fellow. This is a Vestal. She heals. It's really interesting. This is a Bounty Hunter. He hits you really hard if you're marked or stunned. Here's a Man-at-Arms. He protects other characters and counterattacks a lot. This is a Hellion. She is my bae. She hits super hard at the expense of debuffing herself. This is a Highwayman. He'll shoot you in the face. This is a Jester. He sings songs, makes you bleed, and has a funny hat. This is a Leper. He hits super hard and takes a lot of damage. His biggest problem is he can't see a goddamn thing out of that mask he's wearing. And finally, this is an Abomination. He's just a regular dude that pukes up acid and turns into a horrifying demon which stresses out everyone around him. Once you've assembled a team you think will work, you head into the dungeons and take on a quest to gain loot. You need 4 things to be successful in building your estate back up. First, you need heirlooms. Heirlooms are used to upgrade your various structures in town. If you want better skills, better weapons and armor, ways to reduce stress, and more adventurers to choose from, then you need heirlooms. Somehow, busts and portraits make things bigger and better. You can build structures with them. Don't ask me how. I guess they're using them as bricks. Second, you need cash, gold, and jewels. You can use cash to buy supplies for your runs, to purchase upgrades for your individual characters, and you spend it to treat characters for stress and afflictions. Third, you need Resolve. Resolve is a fancy word in this game that means levels. If you don't get Resolve levels, your characters cannot get better skills and equipment and cannot go on harder missions. The only way to get Resolve is to complete a mission. If you do 90% of a mission and then you realize you're going to die during the last 10% and then you quit, you get 0 Resolve. None. Nada. Squat. If you quit a mission, you can still keep your golden heirlooms though, so there's a silver lining. Lastly, you need some good trinkets. Trinkets are stat-modifying items that improve your characters in some ways, but make them weaker in other ways. Most of the time, the benefits outweigh the negatives. So gear up, get yourself some food, torches, and shovels at a bare minimum, and head into the dungeons. Here in the ruins, it's good to carry some holy water. There's lots of creepy, evil statues here that will give you some good stuff if you purify them with holy water. In the Warrenge, which is this disgusting layer of pigmen, it's a good idea to take some healing herbs. That way you can disinfect corpses and find loot and food in them. If you don't disinfect them, there's a good chance you'll get pink eye or something. When going through the poison forest of the Weld, bring along some extra antidotes. Everything in this place wants to poison you. Plus, it makes searching these nasty trees much more profitable. When you're in the cove, it's a real good idea to bring extra shovels so you can crack open these pesky clamshells. Sometimes you'll get a nasty gash if you just use your bare hands. Then there are these things. Put a torch in it. Okay. Oh my god, what the f*** are you? Traversing the map of each area is a simple process. You start in a room, and then you walk down a hallway, and then you get to another room. Inside of the hallways, you might find treasure, you might trigger traps that make you bleed or poison you. You find curios, which are objects that can be triggered to give a random positive or negative outcome, and they can be influenced by using certain items on them. Or you can get into battles. As you walk around the dungeon, it's smart to keep your torchlight bright. Monsters are stronger and more accurate in the dark, and everything stresses you out way more in the dark. When you're in the light, you can surprise monsters more easily, and your accuracy is better, and you gain less stress. Now that I mention it, we really need to talk about stress. It's the defining characteristic of this game. In most RPGs, when your character's health hits 0, they die. While that is also true in Darkest Dungeon, each character also has a stress meter. When they hit 100 stress, there is a very good chance they will go nuts. When this happens, they're afflicted with a very negative debuff. They could become selfish and not listen to commands, or they could skip turns, they could become paranoid and stress out everyone around them, which could make them go nuts, which is just a snowball of stress. If this wasn't bad enough, if a character's stress level hits 200, they'll have a heart attack and either die immediately on the spot, or have their health drop to 0 and be put on death's door. And when a character dies, they are dead forever. There is absolutely no revive mechanic in this game. Our heroes retain their stress after a grueling mission, and they are in dire need of some stress relief. Once they get back to town, they have a few options to help them chill out. We can get some much needed R&R at the tavern. You can drink away your pain. You can gamble and let the rush of chance wash away your grief. Or you could go and support the oldest profession and enjoy some ladies of the night. And over here we have the Abbey. If sin doesn't make you feel good, maybe spiritual peace will. Here you can pray away the horror, or sit down on a yoga mat and just meditate until you have no conscious thought. Or you can self-flagellate, which is apparently whipping yourself, which seems super stressful to me. After playing this game during early access and a bunch during release, I've built up a ton of personal stress that needs to be alleviated. I'm going to try all these methods to see if anything will help me out. The bar seems familiar to me. I do that now and then.
Jack Dagnall's my old friend. You never steered me wrong before. I don't feel any better.
Stress isn't the only negative attribute that builds up over time. There are also afflictions that can be treated at the sanitarium. These are both mental and physical traits that can either help or harm you. Some quirks make it so that your heroes will just steal loot for themselves, make them check every single creepy thing in the world that might potentially harm them, or it can just lower their stats. There are also diseases which can be treated here that greatly reduce stats. These are pricey to cure, but a lot of the time very necessary to get rid of, as when a team member is afflicted with one of these diseases, they're totally useless. Look, this guy has rabies. Does that mean he could end up biting someone on my team? Oh, God, it stresses me out just thinking about it. Maybe I'll try some meditation? Oh
my god, this is f***ing stupid.
So let's talk about the types of missions that our adventurers can undertake. There are 4 types of missions, and this is true of each of the dungeons. Firstly, we have exploration. These I would consider the easiest. You have to explore 90% of the rooms for a win condition. It's possible to get pretty lucky when doing these and not have to encounter too many wretched horrors. Second, we have battle missions. In these, you must kill every monster in every room. Hallways don't count, as they can respawn monsters while you backtrack through them. Third, we have fetch quests, or activation quests. In these, you have to find 3 curios and either collect an item or activate an item. These items are randomly spread through the dungeon. They can be in rooms or hallways, so you have to check everything out. It's possible to stumble across these items super fast, or you could have to cover every square inch of the dungeon, which seems to happen to me 95% of the time, which is so goddamn annoying. Oh, my head is pounding. I just need some relief. I think maybe I'll play some craps and see if I can win some scratch.
Alright. Time to win big. Don't feel me now. Is 2 1s good?
The last type of mission we have are boss battles. These are pretty self-explanatory. You go through the dungeon, you try to find the room with the boss battle in it, and defeat the boss. If you're lucky, you'll get some good early scouting so you can tell exactly where the boss is. Whenever I knew where a boss was, I would just camp in the room just before the boss so I could heal up, relieve stress, and get some much-needed buffs. Which is always great. Unless you get ambushed during the night, these goddamn freaks are making me lose my mind. Maybe some passages from the Bible will calm me down?
It's never helped me before. Maybe this time?
These bosses are pretty horrific. Here we have the Necromancer, who endlessly summons skeletons and deals crazy backline damage. You gotta try to rush as much damage into him as possible and kill him. If you keep killing the skeletons, he just keeps summoning more skeletons. But if you don't kill the skeletons, they just keep doing more damage. But if you... Oh no, my highwayman died. Jesus, okay, let's try the brothel. I need some sexual healing.
Maybe pleasures of the flesh? You porn? What's a yaoi? I feel a lot more stressed now.
All of the bosses have some hook you have to figure out. They're not only brutal and do tons of damage and get multiple turns, but they're also little puzzles within themselves. Here's the Hag. She cooks one of your heroes in a pot until you smack them out of it. This is the Crew. They can move your party's position around, which will make it so you can't use some of your abilities, and they can life leech your characters. This is the Prophet. He fills everyone with dread and can drop rubble on multiple teammates at a time, doing massive damage. This is the Swine Prince, or King, or whatever. It depends at what level you take him on, what his title is. His little buddy Wilbur marks individual heroes for the kill, and then the big swine does massive damage to them. The Siren can charm one of your heroes and make them fight for her, and the Pounder shoots you in the face with a giant cannonball. Jesus! So the idea is, you scout the dungeons, you clear the dungeons, you steal or activate things in the dungeons, and then you beat the bosses of the dungeons. How many times can I say dungeons? All the while, your surviving heroes begin to gain resolve levels. When they do, you can upgrade their armor, weapons, and abilities, and they just become better with dealing with the misery of the darkest dungeon. Then once they think they're badasses, they won't do easier missions. Once they hit a high enough level, they get all hoity-toity and think they're too good to go into the beginner areas and just raffle-stomp the weaker monsters. This creates a situation where you need a bunch of rotating teams of heroes. One, so you can keep stress-free teams ready to go, and two, so that you can have lower and higher level teams to take on lower and higher level dungeons. This seems all well and good until you take your most badass A-rank team into a higher level quest, and then they get eviscerated, and you strongly consider uninstalling the game and throwing your computer in the river. This happened to me more than once because of unlucky RNG. All of a sudden, for no reason, it seems like every single monster in a dungeon will just focus on one of my party members. It seems like they think this one guy talks shit about their mothers, and they will not rest until he is nothing but a headstone. I beat the hell out of all the apprentice quests and then moved into the veteran quests, and I will admit, I ran into a ton of trouble here. I stagnated, I got hit with some bad RNG, then I got frustrated, and well, a lot of people died. Darkest Dungeon isn't a game you just bang out in a weekend. You need to be dedicated. You need to know the best tactics, what's the best team to take into this dungeon, what's the best setup for this particular boss, do I have the right items to get the most out of this dungeon, should I just do torchless runs for a while and get a ton of loot, but also in the process put my team in harm's way? What are the best trinkets to use in this situation? Why do I have a headache and why is my heart racing uncontrollably? And why do I just want to kick my dog for looking at me funny? I think this game is changing me. If you manage to beat the veteran quest, there's a whole nother tier called champion that's even harder. The thing that sucks is if you lose your top tier teams, you need to retrain new teams from apprentice back up to the higher tiers. It can be a real slog if you're unlucky or if your tactics aren't that great. On this review file, I think I played maybe 15 hours and I started to hit a wall. I started neglecting all aspects of my daily life to try and make my team better, and I was snapping at my roommate. It was actually getting in my head. Self-flagellation. That's the next step. That's the only way left to calm my nerves.
Whipping yourself? Why would this relieve stress? It's pretty much my last option, though. I could get into this.
Every single one of my teammates who was good is dead. I've stopped naming heroes because I know it's pointless to make friends in this war. Everyone will just be dead soon enough. Well, I take my last decent team into the dungeon, and I find this horrific edifice. I know what this thing is. It summons a Cthulhu-like beast, and if you can beat him, he gives you really good trinkets. I mean, top-tier good stuff. I need to get those trinkets, or I'll never even reach the darkest dungeon. At least that's what I convinced myself of at the time. Alright, let's get this tentacled son of a bitch out of the way. No! Oh! Jesus! Oh, fuck.
As I lay there, with all manner of stress relief useless, I realized I would never succeed. Maybe you can triumph where I failed and reach the bottom tiers of the darkest dungeon.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for watching that Darkest Dungeon review. It was a lot of fun to make, and also very stressful. It's a good allegory for the game. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. As always, my name is Nick. This channel is called Indie Gamer News. Click that subscribe button if you're interested in seeing some more of my stuff. I do Let's Play videos almost all the time. I do a news series every Friday to talk about new indie games, and I try to do a big review like this once a month. And, well, I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.